This video was produced by The Top Cut. Be sure to check out thetopcut.net, your home for Pokemon TCG, tournament coverage, professional game analysis, and interviews with the best players in the world. Thanks for watching. Hey everybody, this is Pooka bringing you round 5 of the Wisconsin State Championships here from La Crosse, Wisconsin. Now this event was streamed live on our stream page, which is twitch.tv/thetopcut. So people actually got to watch this game live, and here I'm just gonna throw in some commentary and we'll analyze what happened. Now we do have 2 undefeated players at this point. We do see Andrew on the left just mulliganed his hand, and Brandon is on the right. Now we have kind of an interesting matchup, which is Andrew's playing the standard deck for the format, which is Zekrom, Eelektrik, but we did see there was a fighting energy in his hand, so looks like he's got a Terrakion tech in there as well. And then on the right, we have Brandon playing Durant, but there's a little twist on the deck. He plays one Mewtwo EX as well, and he kind of uses that to take advantage of people not having many attackers in play. And then when his opponent's hand gets pretty low, he'll play down his Mewtwo with a double colorless, an Eviolite, and then play an N and put his opponent at a very small hand size. And then he'll just kind of sweep using X-Ball, and we'll see if he can pull that off here or how exactly the game plays out. So Andrew will go first, and he'll get his perfect starter, which is Thundurus, and it looks like he doesn't have much else though, because he's just going to go straight for charge, and he's going to threaten a turn 2 knockout. Now Thundurus will be your best starter if you're playing the Zekrom Eelektrik deck here. Charge allows you to power up Thundurus, gets you some more lightning energy out of your deck and onto the field, and then Disaster Volt, of course, can knock out a Durant. It does 80 damage. Durant has 78 points. If your opponent has an Eviolite on a Durant, then you would only do 60 damage, but for the most part, early on in the game, you're going to be able to score at least 1 or 2 knockouts with Thundurus. And then it allows your Eelektriks to have some fuel for a Dynamotor, get some lightning energy out of the discard pile, and power up. Eventually you would hope to power up Zekrom. I know we do see an Eviolite on the first turn from Brandon, but no energy, so things still going very well for Andrew, and it looks like he either top decked that collector or is holding on to it. Don't really know, but either way it's going to be a close game. It looks like both players setting up fairly well, and we do see Andrew grabbing his Shaman. Probably doesn't want that to get devoured, so he's just gonna grab that right away, and then I would assume 2 Dynamos, and yep, there we go. So the strategy against Durant is basically you try to put as few things with retreat costs on your field as possible, and you try to knock out a Durant every turn. If you are playing Durant, usually the strategy is to use Durant's main attack, which is Devour. Discards the top card of your opponent's deck for each Durant you have in play. So right now, Brandon has 4 Durants in play, so he would discard the top 4 cards of Andrew's deck every time he uses Devour. And here we have a Catcher and a Disaster Volt. He decides to discard that double colorless, which is a good idea because of Lost Remover, which would send the double colorless to the Lost Zone. So kind of unfortunate he didn't have a 3rd Lightning to use Disaster Volt and discard a Lightning and start getting those lightning energy into the discard pile for Eelektrik's Dynamotor. But not a big deal. He's still in a pretty good spot, and you know, he took a prize in the 2nd turn. Maybe he'll get some Eelektriks here, and it's really a long game ahead where pretty much anything can happen. Of course, the big things we have to worry about in this matchup from the Durant side is Pokemon Catcher. Right now that's not going to make too big of a difference because, well, there's nothing with a retreat cost on Andrew's field besides the active. And the other thing is going to be Crushing Hammer, which is a big deal. So here's a Devour for 4. Looks like he got a Mewtwo and a Zekrom EX. So not too big of a deal there. neither of those cards are going to come into play in this matchup. And now it's going to be up to Andrew to see what he does here, what exactly he's got in his hand. See a junk arm and some other stuff there. When you're playing against Durant, you don't always want to use your supporters, even if you have them. For example, Professor Juniper is not the greatest in the world because you're going to draw 7 cards from your deck. Sometimes you just need to use it to get cards in your hand. But in general, you don't want to use cards like Sage's Training or Professor Juniper in this matchup. So now we do see a level ball coming from Brandon. He grabs a Rotom, and it looks like he's just going to junk arm and get rid of that Rotom right away. Oh, he actually gets rid of a second junk arm and the Rotom. Kind of an interesting choice. Grabs the revive. I'm not sure why he got rid of that junk arm, unless I was seeing that incorrectly. But yeah, when you're playing Durant, your trainers are probably the most precious resource you have. The revives, the crushing hammers, the catchers, and of course the junk arms, which can be any of those. So when you see a player discard a junk arm, it's kind of shocking because those are probably the most important cards in your deck. And there we see a crushing hammer. Looks like you got tails. Of course, if you got heads, that would discard one of Andrew's energy. And we're just going to see another Devour. And ooh, 2 double colorless. That is a very big Devour. Double colorless not used so much for attacking as it in this matchup as it is for just retreating Eelektrik, because it has that 2 retreat cost. So you really want all those double colorless energy in your deck so that you can retreat if it gets catchered up. So right now we've seen Andrew actually use 3 double colorless. 2 just got devoured, and he used 1 on the second turn to Disaster Volt, so he's already very light on resources, especially after he just used a second junk arm there. So catcher could become a major player as this game goes on, and you know, we could see an Eelektrik get stuck. There's still a lot of stuff that can happen. It all depends on some flips and what these players draw and how they decide to go about it. And here is an Eelektrik, 2 Eelektriks from Andrew right now. Now, I'm not sure if he should have played these immediately. They are kind of a liability because of that 2 retreat cost, but he decides to do it. A little bit of a risk. You know, even though he has them, it doesn't mean he has to play them immediately. It's probably actually safer to just leave them at Dynamo. And alright, so Andrew's going to get a 3rd prize here. He's already down to 3. He's taking a prize every turn, which if you can manage to do that against Durant, you're going to be in really good shape. The reason Durant does so well is that it can buy time with cards like, hey, here's Pokemon Catcher. It's going to drag this Eelektrik with a 2 retreat cost into the active position, and he's going to Devour. And alright, so it was only a Devour for 3 though, if you notice. Brandon didn't actually play any supporters or anything from his hand, so he might be drawing a little light at this point. He doesn't really have anything in his hand, I don't think. And if he doesn't have anything, then could just see his Devours get weaker and weaker, and then Andrew slowly win. Now, I like what he's doing here. He's spreading 2 energy onto each Eelektrik, and actually another catcher. Wow, so he will take 1 more prize. He'll get down to 2 prizes very, very quickly. I believe this is only the 5th turn of the game. So, it's a big uphill battle for Brandon, and it looks like, is that another Tails on Crushing Hammer? I think so, but he did draw into a Twins, so that's a pretty big deal here. Now, the reason why spreading 1 energy on each Eelektrik was so smart for Andrew was in case one of them got catchered out, then he would only need a lightning energy to retreat. Let's say he put 2 lightning on one and 0 on the other. Well, then Brandon's simply going to play catcher and bring out the Eelektrik with no energy on it, and then you can't really retreat it. So, so far Andrew's playing this pretty well, and uh-oh, here comes that big Mewtwo. And this is what I was talking about earlier. He does play this. And Brandon kind of realizing, okay, I'm pretty far behind. Let's just go for it. So he puts down his Mewtwo. This is a really, really big risk, considering Andrew does have 2 Electrics out. And he does play, I think, 3 Mewtwo EX in his deck. We did see one did get devoured earlier on. And yep, there it is in his discard pile. So if he were to get Mewtwo out, and he would need 3 energy on it, and use X-Ball, this game would be over. Of course, EXs give up 2 prizes, and Mewtwo is weak to other Mewtwo's. So if we had Andrew getting his own Mewtwo EX out this turn, he would win. And there's no way for Brandon to avoid it. So I think Andrew realizes this, and he's got a couple supporters in his hand, either Sage or Oak's New Theory, and not sure which one he's going to go for here. But if he were to get a Mewtwo into play this turn, I think he would just win the game. Even if he only used X-Ball for 140, that's what it would be if he had 2 energy, because of that Eviolite. Even if he only did that, I think he would end up winning, just because he could attack with, well, at that point he could win with Eelektrik, using Electric Ball for the finishing 30 damage. So he's really got to get a Mewtwo this turn. I mean, he doesn't need it this turn. If Brandon's gonna try to go for the prize win, then I mean, he's got a long way to go. He's at 6 prizes to Andrew's 2. And let's see what he does. Looks like there's no Mewtwo or a way to get it in there, so he's probably gonna have to attack with Thundurus this turn, which isn't a big deal. He can still soften up that Mewtwo and then finish it off in the coming turns. So really not a big deal at all. So I would really just like to see him attach and then hit the Mewtwo, but uh-oh, it looks like he's gonna catcher a Durant. And this is kind of dangerous for a couple reasons. The first reason being, you really just want to hit the Mewtwo and then be able to knock it out. We've seen Brandon is pretty much just committing to the Mewtwo. He doesn't have any plans to use Devour, doesn't really have many Durants into play, and this is the other reason. And now, you might not think the difference between 1 and 2 cards is a very big deal, but actually it is. If Andrew were to just hit the Mewtwo for 60 with Disaster Volt, and then Brandon were to play an N, Andrew would get 2 cards, and that 1 extra card does a lot of things. The biggest thing is, when you start off with 2 cards, when you draw the card for your turn, you'll have 3, and then, say if you drew a Junk Arm off of your N, then you'd be able to actually use the Junk Arm and get something like Pokegear, which we know is in Andrew's discard pile. But in this case, there's really not a whole lot you can do with 1 card. So we'll see if Andrew actually drew anything. It's going to be an uphill battle for him at this point to knock out this Mewtwo, and we can see how strong this late game Mewtwo and N combo is. So could we really see Brandon pull a 6-1 comeback here? We do have a collector from Andrew, so if he can grab a Mewtwo here, he'll be just fine. I think if he grabs Mewtwo, he will definitely win this game. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't grab Mewtwo, and I do see one in his deck, but oh, looks like he doesn't grab it. Now if he did grab Mewtwo, he has 2 Electrics. He can Dynamotor twice onto his Mewtwo. He can X-Ball, which would do 80 times 2, which is 160, minus 20 for the Eviolite, which would be 140, leaving his opponent's Mewtwo EX with 30 hit points. And then even if his own Mewtwo gets knocked out, he can actually knock him out with Electric Ball, and he'd win the game. So I'm really puzzled as to why Andrew did not use grab a Mewtwo there, and actually he just sends up an Electric and passes. So I don't know what to make of this really. Andrew really not responding well to the N. You know, it can be frustrating when you lose your entire hand, but you really have to keep your cool and don't make any rash decisions here when you get down to such a low hand size and you don't have many resources to work with. He really drew the cards he needed to win the game here. He drew into the collector for the Mewtwo, and that really would have done it for him. And he just didn't realize that he was maybe just a little frustrated that he's down to one card. He probably thought he had the game won, but now he's really down to nothing here. And I really don't see a reason why he had to send up his Eelektrik and sacrifice it like that. At the very least, he should have used Electric Ball with one of them. But I probably would have kept Tyrogue in the active spot. Looks like he accidentally drew a couple too many cards, but no big deal there. And yeah, we're going to see Mewtwo just X-Ball this Eelektrik for 100. And now what does Andrew do? Ooh, actually looks like he didn't draw his card for the turn there. Uh-oh. So yeah, you can really see he's kind of getting flustered at this point. Can't believe he forgot to draw a card for the turn, though. That is a very, very big deal. You don't know what that card was going to be. If that was a double colorless, well, actually he's out of those. But even if it was an energy, that was a complete game changer. You know, if he has an energy, he wins the game pretty much because he has this collector. And this time around, it looks like he's going to grab Mewtwo. I don't know why he didn't do this last turn. He definitely should have. He would have won the game, no problem. But yeah, not drawing the card for your turn, that is absolutely devastating. If he drew an energy there, he would actually just win with Dynamotor and then an attachment, and then he would X-Ball, and the game would be over. And just kind of surprising. You know, everything's kind of falling apart. He had the complete lead in this game, and all it takes is a Mewtwo and an N, and everything kind of turned around. It looks like he even forgot to use Dynamotor, so this is a terrible turn of events for Andrew, who really was way in control. He even had a few opportunities even after those ends to one card, and everything's just falling apart for him. This one Mewtwo EX looks like it's going to do quite a number. Now, the game is not over yet by any means for either player. Tyrogue did stay asleep, but we did see Brandon as a twins. He'll probably grab a Pokemon catcher, and honestly, he'll probably target the Eelektrik, knowing that Andrew is out of double colorless energy. And yeah, if Brandon keeps drawing into catcher, I don't know if Andrew can actually win this game. He's out of energy acceleration, and for some reason he forgot to Dynamotor as well. So really, Andrew kind of falling apart after that N. Maybe he got a little complacent. He thought he was going to win easily. And then it's just kind of all go downhill. But he's got to realize it's not over yet. Try to find a way to win. And hopefully he drew an energy this turn. Now it looks like he got a Super Rod, which isn't the most useful thing in the world. So a lot of decisions to be made for Andrew here. He's going to play a Super Rod. But really this game was won or lost in the previous few turns, where Andrew had that collector, he decided not to grab the Mewtwo EX, and then he forgot the Dynamotor. He was playing it very, very well those first few turns, and then the N kind of messed with his head, and now we're here, and he's in kind of... it looks like he almost kind of defeated himself, where he kind of thought it was over after the N to 1, but he didn't realize that it wasn't over. So, just a lesson to always be aware of every option on the field, and don't be afraid to sacrifice a Mewtwo EX when you were already up by 5 prizes. I know it's scary when you send a Mewtwo EX up against another Mewtwo EX and you don't knock him out. You're just giving up 2 prizes, but when you're facing the Durant deck, you can certainly afford to give up 2 prizes. They're probably not going to take all 6 unless this happens. So we do see him Super Rod and put 3 Lightning back into his deck. He's just going to shuffle those in. And I don't know if he has a supporter or not. I don't think so. Keep in mind he forgot to draw the card last turn as well. And yeah, he's probably only got the other two basics he collected for in his hand. I don't know what they are. I know one's a Mewtwo. Looks like the other one's a Zekrom. So all he's going to be able to do is Mischievous Punch for another 10 damage. And that's really it. It looks like Brandon is going to make an amazing comeback here. Down 6 prizes to 1. And he's going to come all the way back here and get a big victory, I think. If things go according to plan, he's going to make probably one of the best comebacks I've seen. All because of this one Mewtwo EX. And, oh, looks like Andrew's actually going to promote his own Mewtwo and pass. So, if Brandon were to have another double colorless here, he'd be able to X-Ball for 200 and knock out this Mewtwo EX. Otherwise, yeah, it's going to take 2 turns for this Mewtwo EX to get knocked out. So, we will see how this turns out. Doesn't look like Brandon had the double colorless in his hand. But, you know, even if he just uses X-Ball for 100 every turn, it doesn't really matter because Andrew really doesn't have much left. You know, Andrew is out of all 4 of his double colorless, and he has no energy acceleration and really doesn't have anything in his hand, period. Let's see what he draws. Okay, a level ball. That's certainly not going to help him too much, but it will allow him to get a Dynamo into play. There is an Eelektrik left in his deck, so hey, this could actually be a pretty nice top deck. You know, if he draws something like a Juniper next turn or Oak's New Theory, then he could potentially draw into an Eelektrik and then a Lightning Energy, and then he could Dynamotor onto his Mewtwo, attach, and oh, we forgot to play it down though. So, really no opportunity for him to win at this point. Just going to see X-Ball for a knockout. He's out of double colorless energy. Really, I don't know why he didn't bench that Dynamo. And she's going to put a Lightning on the Mewtwo and hope that Tyrogue stays asleep. I don't know what else he can do. He could actually promote the Mewtwo and hope that Brandon doesn't have an energy, but it looks like the quote-unquote safer play is actually to go with Tyrogue. And he wakes up. So that's going to be it. Brandon, who was down 5 prizes, makes an epic comeback with just 1 Mewtwo EX and N. So even though you're ahead 5 prizes, it doesn't mean you're safe, especially with N in the format. So make this a lesson to you. Don't get too complacent when you're ahead in a game. You never know what can happen. Congratulations to Brandon. He's now 6-0 at this point. Actually 5-0, I apologize. So he's still undefeated, and Andrew will move to 4-1. But thanks for watching. This was a very close game, cool game, and we'll have some more coverage from the Wisconsin State Championships here on the Top Cut. Thanks for watching.